Hi guys, Jack Rogers here and welcome to this lesson inside of Facebook Ads Mastery, where we're going to be talking through CRO, so conversion rate optimization for your e-com store. So I will attach a link to this in the description, but I just wanted to sort of talk through each step, explain the importance and how I would sort of personally implement them. So on the home page, we essentially want to make sure that we have a sticky navigation bar. So the sticky navigation bar is essentially when you go onto the page, that your navigation bar sticks to the top whenever you scroll down. Now, this is really important because it essentially gives the user a really easy chance for them to navigate through your website nice and smoothly, right? And let's say you've got like a really long homepage, which is exactly what I sort of like. I prefer longer websites because we can essentially address every objection and every issue that they could possibly face. But if they're, say, halfway down the landing page and they sort of get the gist, they want to go into your products, have a look at what you have to offer, then they have to scroll back up to the top, which can just create a little bit of friction across the board for them. Now, moving on to the next one is going to be the navigation bar itself. So for me, you want to make sure that you break it up nice and easily, right? So let's say you sell clothes. I would have a men's section. I would have a women's section. You also, underneath each of those, you want to break it down into the subsections. So maybe it's overshirts, maybe you've got t-shirts, shorts, shoes, accessories, and just make it really easy for people to filter through what they're looking for, as it's going to just reduce the friction that's going to be there if you just have sort of men's, they go through and then they've got to sort of navigate through all the products. Now, one thing that I'm a big fan of is having entry pop-ups. So what an entry pop-up is when somebody lands on your site, we get a pop-up bar that comes up. Maybe this is with some form of offer or some form of discount, just to sort of remind them and reiterate that, well, we've got a 50% off sale at the moment. You'd be silly not to capitalize on it. And then you can even have like a CTA button on there that sends them to the collections all page, or if it's a sale on sort of like on a specific collection. So for example, maybe it's like end of summer sale and you've only got your summer clothes on sale, then you can send people to there. Now, one thing you want to be quite careful of with entry pop-ups is to set a slight delay. So there's nothing more frustrating than going onto a website, you don't even read the first headline and you get a pop-up straight away that's sort of pushing you into some form of other action, right? So for me, and if you use something like WordPress or Shopify, you can actually set a time, or you can also set so when they scroll down a certain percentage of the homepage that pop-up will appear. And what I would personally do is set it as a delay of 10 to 15 seconds, or until they're either a third or halfway down the page, so they can absorb a little bit of information. We can then hit them with that pop-up of our discount or our unique selling proposition, and then that's going to push them into another page for them to actually start selling, which is a little bit more catered towards our conversion goal. The next one is going to be the exit pop-ups, and again, I'm a massive fan of exit pop-ups on websites. And what this essentially is when somebody moves their mouse up towards the corner to close the tab or to close that specific window, a pop-up will appear before they get there, which again is just reiterating our USPs or reiterating our offer that we've got on. And some ones that I've worked that are really effective is just like, hold on, before you go, just to let you know, we've got a 50% discount on this range. I'd recommend you checking it out. So those are some really good sort of recommendations across the board. And as we move down, a couple of things off the entry and exit pop-ups as well. You want to make sure that the copy is short, you've got images and you've got CTAs as well. One thing that I've seen time and time again is people will implement this system, but they'll have massive amounts of text on these pop-ups. We want to make it easily digestible for our audience, right? So when they first come onto the site, they likely haven't spent enough time on there yet for us to hit them with a big wall of text, as we haven't warranted or we haven't done anything to get them to invest their time into learning and reading more. And with the exit pop-up, they've essentially made the decision that they aren't going to make a purchase from us. So this is like a last-ditch attempt where if you just have the headline being with your offer or your USP, then that's the differentiating factor. But if they have a massive wall of text, psychologically they've already made their mind up that they're not going to continue with us, and if they get hit with a wall of text, they're just going to completely ignore it and go off the website anyway. Now, going on to sort of verified reviews. Now, one thing that I'm a big fan of is using screenshots of reviews, and if you're not already, I would recommend getting set up on Google Maps, so Google My Business, or Trustpilot as well. And unfortunately, in today's landscape, people are very skeptical of reviews. There's hundreds of businesses out there that just fake reviews, and from my sort of experience, and for me as a person, if I see just a general text review or I see a screenshot of Trustpilot, the Trustpilot screenshot is going to be more credible to me than what just a general text one is. So that's something to bear in mind when using reviews, is to make sure you use like a trusted third-party recommendation. Google My Business and Trustpilot are just a few that I've used. There's going to be tons of other ones out there, and then just make sure that you essentially take a screenshot of that rather than just copy and pasting the text. Now, going on to showing products in use, I'm again a massive fan of this, whether this is going to be sort of static images, or maybe this is going to be videos of people wearing your clothes. Maybe if you're like a little bit more of a niche product and people might not be aware of the full benefits, we can have people using your products in action. Maybe we can have like unboxing videos, and the benefit of this is it helps our audience visualize themselves using the product, which can help engagement, and it can trigger a positive emotional response from our audience if they're a little bit confused about how it works. So for example, if you have a skincare product, maybe just have a video of some like somebody's nighttime routine where they essentially just go into the bathroom, put a bit of water on their face, add the skincare, because you essentially show them how to apply it. You also show them that it's a really fast process. It only takes a couple minutes to do. Now, going on to pricing, you want to make sure that you've got clear and transparent pricing throughout, right? And this is going to incorporate sort of your product prices. This is also going to incorporate your shipping costs as well. There's nothing more annoying as an online shopper when you add a product to your cart, you get to the checkout process, and then you realize you've got to pay extra for shipping. So if we can just be clear and transparent throughout that process, it's going to reduce the friction further on in the process. And it works exactly the same when we have like tax on products as well. So I've seen time and time again, people will have their price advertised on the website without tax. When they get to the checkout page, then that tax is added on, creates that, and it just creates a little bit of friction point. So clear and transparent pricing is really important. Now, going on to the free shipping aspect, and I know for a lot of businesses this can cause a massive amount of operational drag, but for me, shipping costs are a massive reason as to why people abandon carts. And as we can see here, 66% of online shoppers actually expect free shipping from all online orders, and it's the number one reason as to why people abandon carts. So for me, I would, if you can, have free shipping as the default. And just to sort of put this into like a real life example, I know I've spoke about this before. I was working with a company who sold bikinis, and they had a 95% abandoned cart rate because they had shipping costs. We actually went in, we didn't make any changes to the website first. We essentially just wanted to validate that the shipping costs was the true objection. So we ran some retargeting ads that offered free shipping with code X, Y, and Z. And that ad had like a 13-14. So if you can, advertise free shipping. Now, moving on to the next one is going to be guarantees, right? So this is going to be in the form of like money back guarantees, or say product warranties. And what this essentially does is it instills confidence in customers, right? Unfortunately, with the way that the marketing landscape is moving, people are always skeptical when they purchase online. So if we can reduce that risk for them and say, well, just take it, you've got 100% money back guarantee, there's no pressure at all, or this product comes with a lifetime warranty, for example, they essentially build that trust from there, because in the user's mind, they know that you wouldn't be offering any form of guarantee if you didn't trust your own product. So if you can offer guarantees through money back or like lifetime warranties or 6-month warranties, I think it's a really important process. Now, moving on to the returns policy. You want to make it very clear, and you want to make it a really straightforward process for potential buyers. Now, it's not something that you necessarily need to advertise on the homepage, but I would 100% have a returns policy page on your website, and then you can put the link in the footer where people can go through, navigate a little bit more, and you can also incorporate this return policy onto the homepage, because there's nothing more frustrating for a buyer when they go to purchase a product and then finding out that they don't do returns. And for me, in my instance, if I was purchasing a product from a brand I've never heard before, if they didn't have a returns policy, I would not buy the product from them. So just make it very clear and address those concerns early on. Now, moving to the add to cart page. So the add to cart page is essentially a very, very crucial process, right? So when somebody adds a product to their cart, they can then go onto the cart page, they can then follow through to the checkout page. We want to make this add to cart page very user friendly. So for me, I would always have a summary of the items. You want to also add some more reviews and trust signals here, because this is where people are going to be most nervous. So with the trust signals, what I would personally do is I would have some product specific reviews on the cart page, and then I would also, underneath the go to checkout button, is add in some other trust signals, which is going to be your payment processors. So just as a couple of examples, is going to be PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, which just essentially creates that security for our audience. A couple of other little bonuses for the add to cart page is going to be to make sure that you have a way to edit, where you can essentially edit the number of products that you have. So for example, you might do like almost like a lost leading product, for example, where people can add more than one and get like some form of discount. So you want to make sure people can actually go in and edit them as well. Now, the next one is going to be FAQs. So with FAQs, I have these on every single page to reason. Obviously, you don't want to have them on like your returns policy page or your contact us page, but on the home page, on the product page, I will always have FAQs at the very bottom, which is essentially it's the last opportunity we have to address any objections, right? And like we can see here, the idea behind the FAQ section is for anybody who doesn't quite grasp the product, or they still have some questions, maybe they have some objections, but they're still quite interested, they might hesitate to make the purchase. So just having a section at the bottom of the page where we can address that information, it almost acts as like a safety net, and gives our potential customers all the details that they need to feel confident about their decision. So moving on to page speed itself. With page speed, again, this is going to be a vital one, and one thing that I commonly find is if we have quite a long load time on the website, that our bounce rate will be dramatically high. People are impatient, right? They don't want to wait, so we want to have our website as fast as possible. And as we can sort of see here, just as an example, there's a business called Auto Anything. They experienced a 12 to 13% increase in sales after cutting their landing page time in half. Now, on the back of page speed, you essentially have a couple of different options to test this out. The first one is going to be page speed insights. So if I just jump over to Heath Media, what you can do is come over to pagespeed.web.dev, paste paste your website in here, and what that'll essentially do is break down all of the issues for mobile and desktop. Now, a lot of this information might seem quite overwhelming, but there are going to be people out there who will be able to have a look at your site speed for you. Obviously, if it's passed, then you don't necessarily need to worry about it, but you can go on to, say, something like Fiverr and search, let's say your website's built on Shopify. You can search here and there'll be hundreds of people who fit that category who will be able to do that service for you, and it goes the same with WordPress, Wix. There's going to be someone who will be able to optimize it for you. Now, pay, as you can see here, for desktop performance is 100, and it will tell you sort of the load time across the board, and it will also give sort of recommendations for improvements which you can then pass on to your developer. The other option is going to be GTmetrix, and this is the one that I personally use. It works exactly the same sort of way, so you can go into here, paste your URL in here, and the reason why I personally like this a little bit more is it just gives you a little bit more information around the issues. So as we can see here, this one is just slightly nicer to visualize across the board. So as you can see, you've got like your time to interactive, which is how long it takes for your website to become interactive when people can start clicking and navigate through the site, and then it gives you the full load time as well, and then it gives you sort of top issues across the board. Now, moving on to the button section. So this is going to be your CTAs, your call to actions, and you want your call to actions to stand out. You really want to use sort of persuasive language, and you want to tell the user what to do next. So like a good CTA that I have started implementing across the board is like, yes, I want X, Y, and Z. When you say the yes, it reiterates that positive thought process in the user's mind, but you want to make sure that your buttons stand out, they're easy to see, but you also want to make sure that they're not too pushy as well. Now, moving on to sort of the mobile aspect, and this is going to be the most important part of the CRO. Or, as we're fully aware, probably 80-90% of the traffic you get through to your website is going to be on mobile, especially if you're solely relying on traffic from, say, your Facebook ads. So you want to make sure that your website looks good on mobile, and you want to make sure that you optimize it for mobile as well. So going over to sort of the page speed insights, you can break that down for desktop and mobile, as I've just shown you above. So you want to make sure your page speed is good. You also want to make sure that your design is good. Obviously, it's a much smaller screen, so you want to make sure that your copy isn't too small, so it's still easy to read. Resize your creatives. And just to sort of give you an idea, obviously you can go in on your device and check it on there, but as like another point of call, something that I always do is if you double click on a website and go over to inspect, you will have the dimensions here where you can actually have a look through the website on the mobile device as just like another safety call compared to just looking at it on your phone. Now, going on to the next one, your USPs. So your USP stands for your unique selling proposition. And what we want to do here is make sure that we are clearly communicating your unique selling propositions and what sets your brand apart from your competitors, right? So that's one thing that a lot of people who visit your landing pages are going to be. They're going to be in the stage where they know they have a problem and they're hunting for a solution. So explaining why your product is the inferior product on the market is going to help with the purchases. Now, moving on to the live chat feature. So a lot of people on e-com stores, they will have a support email, which is absolutely fine. But for me, I always like to go an extra step and actually integrate a live chat bot on the website. And the reason behind that is if we can provide real-time support and we can address a customer's inquiry straight away, they're going to be more inclined to stay on the website, right? And that makes sense. If we have a support email, what's going to happen is somebody's going to submit a question through your email. They're going to go off the website. You're going to respond. There's a possibility that they're not going to open that email. There's a possibility that they're going to open the email and they're not going to be inclined to go back onto the website. One thing that I'm a massive fan of is just getting everybody's questions answered as soon as possible, because once they've come onto your website, they've absorbed your content, that's when they're going to be most excited, and we really want to capitalize on that excitement, right? We want to capitalize on it, because that's when they're excited, that's going to influence their decision making process more. Where if you submit a message through an email, they're going to go off the website, the excitement dies off, you then respond, and now they're a bit like umming and ahhing as to whether that product is actually going to benefit them in the first place. So there's multiple tools out there. One that I would personally recommend and I've used in the past is something called ManyChat. And what ManyChat essentially does is it integrates with your Facebook Messenger, so you can get the messages directly to your inbox. But what you can also do is actually build out flows. So what you can do is have like a default list of questions. So maybe you have like a preset question on shipping, maybe you have a preset question on like a specific discount or how to create an account, and you can build those workflows. So if somebody comes on, they'll get hit with a list of questions to start with, they click billing, they get an automated response, and then underneath that automated response we can say, well, chat with the person if that hasn't addressed your question. So at least we've essentially got a line of defense across the board there. But again, really important one. Now the next one is going to be the payment options, and this is something that we've covered above in terms of the add to cart page, but we want to make sure that we're offering as many payment options as we possibly can to cater to diverse customer preferences, right? And if we can offer, if we can offer PayPal, if we can offer Visa, if we can offer MasterCard, if we can offer Apple Pay, if we can offer ShopPay or Google Pay, if we can do like Klarna, so they pay over 3 months, that's just going to help with their decision making process a lot easier, right? And for me, if I'm shopping on my phone, 99% of the time, like, I'm going to use Apple Pay, right? I've got an iPhone. I never have my bank card on me, right? Because I always pay through Apple Pay, and I've had it time and time again where I will go to purchase a product online. I actually had it yesterday. Me and my partner were looking at some furniture, and we were out and about, found one that we really liked. I went to go buy it, didn't have my bank card. So I had to stop the process, right? And I haven't actually gone back onto the website since. So making sure that we can capitalize on everybody is going to increase the chances of conversions. So now I wanted to sort of move on to the product detail page. I'm not going to run through all of these because we cover a lot of them in the homepage one, but you essentially want to make sure that we've got free shipping, we've got guarantees, we've got a good returns policy, we've got FAQs at the bottom of the page, we've got clear pricing, we've got our clear sales message, trust signals. Again, we want to make sure that we're using ones from Trustpilot, Google, any other third-party tools. And then the one where I sort of did want to dive into was the cross-sells and upsell opportunities. So on the product page, something that I will always have underneath is going to be some recommended products, right? And what this essentially does is it helps increase your AOV, so your average order value, but you can do it in a way where it doesn't look so pushy, right? So the best way to do this is to pair the products up. So for example, if you sell summer t-shirts, maybe the recommended products underneath can be overshirts, or maybe it can be a pair of matching shorts to go with it. And it can essentially just boost your average transaction value, leading to increased revenue. And you can also sort of become really helpful here. And a lot of people that I speak to, they see this as too pushy. But the way that I sort of see it is that giving recommended products shows that you as a business understand the customer's needs, which makes it more than likely that they will return to you in the future, right? And this works across the board. So if you sell skincare, for example, maybe the recommended product is going to be like a glove where you can massage it in. So just as a couple of examples. And then the last one is going to be the product images. So we just want to make sure that we're using clear images, clear videos, just so they stand out and people can fully learn about what that product is. I hope all that makes sense. Any questions, any concerns, please let me know.